What's going on, everyone? Hope you're having a good day. I want to talk about the travel ban and what's going on in a very honest manner, and I just want you to consider it. You don't have to agree or disagree or completely believe it, but please consider it and please do your own research about it, because the way it's being portrayed in the media and on social media is just completely inaccurate. And it's so inaccurate, it's at the point where it's going to become dangerous for people. So I'm going to wait about 2 seconds and then I'm going to start. Okay, so today there's news that a court blocked Trump's revised travel ban. And I want to mention before I start going into anything, and like I said, please just listen and consider this. You don't have to agree or disagree. I beg you to question it and do your own research, but this is what I found. So the ACLU, organizations like the ACLU, are trying to block Trump's travel ban, not because it's the wrong thing to do, but literally because they say it's unconstitutional because it's Trump saying it. Literally, they admitted this in court, the ACLU. They said if Hillary Clinton wanted to do this travel ban, it would be constitutional. What makes it unconstitutional is the fact that Trump used the word Muslim while he was campaigning. So now they're saying that it's unconstitutional just because he said that. It's literally a block of political correctness. It's not because they completely disagree with it. It's just because Trump said it, first of all. And second of all, I want to really in depth explain the root of the problem. And this is something that Trump's not talking about, Le Pen's not talking about, Macron's not talking about, Theresa May. So over the course of the last 15, 16 years, between George W. Bush, a Republican, and Barack Obama, a Democrat, we have expanded imperialism and war in the Middle East. With George Bush, everybody was paying attention. We had the terrible 9/11 attacks, and then we went over to Afghanistan and Iraq, and everybody knew about it. And then the difference was, during Barack Obama's 8 years with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, nobody was paying attention, including myself. I was under, Obama's such a cool, funny, smart guy. I wasn't paying attention, to be honest. I like basketball. He likes basketball. I wasn't paying attention. I just wasn't. But he expanded war into multiple countries. And this is the difference. Everyone knew about George W. Bush and what he was doing. No one knew. Did you know that Barack Obama expanded war? In 2016, he dropped bombs on 7 different Muslim countries. He dropped bombs on Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, Yemen, Pakistan, and Syria. That's 7 countries. And nobody knew about it. The media didn't talk about it. No one knew about it. So this is a refugee crisis that was caused from the imperialist tactics of George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Whether you love Trump or hate Trump, I could care less. He didn't cause the refugee crisis. The refugee crisis was caused during George Bush and Barack Obama's reign. They destabilized a lot of countries where, you could debate all day if it's the United States' fault, is it the religion's fault, is it Libya's fault, is it Iraq's fault? They were corrupt, but there's one thing. Regardless of how corrupt their leadership was, like people like Saddam Hussein and maybe Gaddafi, who are controversial figures, it wasn't destabilized. It might have been corrupt, it might have been bad, but when United States put their hand in the situation and killed the leaders, Gaddafi and Saddam, it just left a massive vacuum. And terror groups like ISIS, who literally didn't exist 8 years ago during George Bush's era, if you remember, it was all Al-Qaeda, 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 Al-Qaeda. There was no ISIS. It didn't even exist. So during Barack Obama's 8 years, ISIS was not only created, but it built into a massive entity that we all know today. So this is why the refugee crisis exists, because of George W. Bush and Barack Obama. This is why it exists. But the difference is, the media didn't tell you as the refugee crisis was being created. Nobody talked about it. I didn't talk about it. You didn't. No one was talking about it. They expanded war into 7 countries and no one's talking about it. So now it is a mess, and the United States has a part of it. The UN has a part of it. Their own countries have a part of it. Religion plays a part of it on both sides, and you're not allowed to talk about it. If you talk about it, they say you're racist, you're xenophobic, you're anti-Muslim, and it's just not true. I feel bad for the Muslims in the Middle East. I feel bad because even they're getting attacked by ISIS. This is what people don't understand. We're so privileged in America. We don't know what's going on. During the pilgrimage every year that Muslims have to Mecca or wherever it is. There's a pilgrimage every year, and they have a massive prayer ceremony with millions of people. It's the biggest prayer ceremony in the world, and it's peaceful. They got attacked by terror groups. The peaceful Muslims are getting attacked by terror groups as well. These terror groups are out of control. And as you see with what's going on in France and England, have we seen this many terror attacks in the past, I would say, 10 plus years or so? We haven't. Things like the Ariana Grande concert, these are happening. This is reality. This is real life. And a lot of it, is fueled by multiple different reasons. One is definitely the influx of people coming into the country who, it has nothing to do with being racist, but if you started war in these countries, presidents that nobody knows about started these wars, and they made these countries hate America even more. They hate Western civilization, whether you want to admit it or not. There's millions of people in these countries where the temporary travel ban is that hate America and want to destroy Western civilization. So to vet them extremely would be very wise. If you watch journalists like Tim Pool goes around Europe and he talks to refugees himself, and there's Muslim peaceful refugees who say, listen, I am Muslim, I'm peaceful, but to tell you the truth, up to 80% of these specific refugees that are being taken in, not all Muslims, but these specific refugees are pro-ISIS. So if you take in 1 million people that are pro-ISIS, what do you think is going to happen to a country? Meanwhile, leaders like Macron are trying to force refugees on other countries. They're saying, Poland, you have to take refugees. Poland doesn't even want to take refugees. They didn't even have a hand in it. And now they're being forced refugees into their country. It's almost like a lot of these leaders are purposely trying to destabilize. And like I said, I'm going to get at the root of the issue, because not even Trump or Le Pen, they don't even get at the root. They blame Muslims and everything. I get it. I get where they're coming from. I see it. But that's not even the root of the issue, because a lot of this disdain for Western civilization comes not only out of the extremism of the religion and people who interpret it in a certain way, but it comes from leaders like Barack Obama and George Bush constantly just attacking these countries. Barack Obama, you could Google this. Barack Obama's drone strikes, his drone strikes killed 90% civilians. 90%. So this is a drone. It's not even human manned. It's a drone coming into your village, or to your country, to your city, to your town, and killing 90% innocent people who have nothing to do with ISIS or the war or anything. What do you think that's going to do when you're killing civilians? And the media won't talk about it. The media didn't talk about when Barack Obama did that. They didn't talk about when George Bush did that. And they're not going to talk about when Trump does it or the UN does it. And that's part of the root of the problem. You could blame the religion all day, but what do you think is going to happen if drones come in and kill 90% of your own people? Do you think it's going to help the situation or hurt it? And all of this has been happening, but nobody knows because they don't talk about it. So you have massive wars, massive destabilization from countries, and you have someone like Donald Trump, albeit I don't think a lot of times he presents it in the right way to get everyone on board, but is it a terrible idea to temporarily ban travel from 7 countries where they hate Western civilization and hate America because of failed policies of past presidents that no one knows about? It's not a terrible idea, because you look at Europe and, I pray for everyone, I pray for the world, but this is the reality of what's going on. There's wars, it's not completely the United States' fault, it's not completely the religion's fault, but it's a part of everything, and that's what no one's talking about. It's bringing the extreme out of that religion. There's extremes to all things, but the Muslim religion, they're extremely, peaceful. They cover up their women, they fast. There's a lot of extreme good in the religion, and there can be some extreme bad. So given the situation, the extreme bad is on the rise, but you can't talk about it, because if you talk about it, you're xenophobic, you're racist. And I want to say about North Korea, China and Russia manned their borders with their military around North Korea, and the reason was, if the United States and North Korea got in a conflict, they didn't want North Korean refugees flooding into their country. It's not racist, it's not sexist, it might be a little extreme to some, but say North Korea was destabilized, and this is how I personally feel about North Korea, where they're a little wild. If we can get on the same page with them and just get them to stop threatening us and we stop threatening them, it'll be fine. But the worst thing to do, in my opinion, you could have your own, of course, and please do your own research. I'm not saying to just blindly agree with me, but the worst thing to do would be to destabilize North Korea, because now you have millions of people who are indoctrinated into this system where they think Kim Jong-un is God, and they can't really function in South Korea or in China because they're not part of that society. And if you destabilize North Korea, that would be a mess too. And China and Russia, they don't want North Korean refugees in their country. It's not being mean. I think we should absolutely help, but what we have to understand is there doesn't need to be refugees. There's a misconception in, I don't like to use the term, but liberal media, whatever, or the media that dominates social media and regular media. There's this feeling that, oh, we have to help them and they want to come to our country. They don't want to come to your country. It's really ignorant and really arrogant to just assume that everybody wants to go where you're at. A lot of people don't want to come to the United States or don't want to come to France or England. They want to stay in the countries where they're born and where they're raised and where their family is and where their businesses are. They don't want to come to the United States. It's like the liberals are like, oh, we got to just stop bombing, stop supporting presidents like Barack Obama and George Bush, a Republican and a Democrat, who start the refugee crisis. They don't want to leave Syria. I've got messages from people in Syria that say, I'm good. I don't want to leave. I'm fighting for my country. I love my country. Of course, it's up to an opinion, but it's so dumb to just think, oh yeah, bomb someone's country and then forcefully drag them to your country. There's been many interviews. Check out Tim Pool. Like I said, he interviews refugees in France, in Germany, in Sweden, in England. And most of the refugees say, I hate it here. I don't fit in. They dump me in the ghetto. I can't get a job because I barely speak the language. People aren't nice to me here. I don't even want to be here. I wish I was in my own country. I wish they never brought me here. That's what they say. And think about how bad their country is. I also know stories of people from the United States who have worked in Afghanistan, and they choose to live in Afghanistan because they're so sick and tired of the BS and the lies of the United States and their media and their presidents of all angles. So they're like, I'd rather live in Afghanistan. They're United States citizens and they don't even want to be here because they know the truth and they're so sick of the bullshit. I'm not saying to not help these people. I absolutely think we should help these people, but it's so ignorant. And it's so sad to me that this has become publicly acceptable. It's narrowed the conversation. Don't start the refugee crisis, and there's ways to help them. There's ways to create safe zones. There's millions of acres and miles in the Middle East that are untouched. Saudi Arabia has massive amounts of land and massive, facilities. There's all sorts of places and things that we can do besides bombing the shit out of these people, pointing the finger, blaming them, and then forcefully dragging them into our countries. It's ridiculous, and it's going to get dangerous because you can't even talk about it. You talk about it, and people say, oh, you're racist and xenophobic. I'm not racist. I'm not blaming the Muslim religion. I'm actually blaming the presidents like Barack Obama and George Bush who induce the extremism out of the religions and then bomb the shit out of these people and then drag them to our countries. What do you think's going to happen? And these so-called social justice warriors have the nerve to sit on, oh, we have to bring them here. We have to bring them here. Okay, so what do you think's going to happen? Bring 100,000 people, bring 1 million people. Luckily in the United States, we're such a big country and we're also so far away, we're not going to be directly affected. But keep your eyes on Europe because, if the terror attacks stop and there's not another terrorist attack for the past 5 years, we can go from there. But if terror attacks keep happening and keep happening and keep happening and keep happening, maybe something's going on. Maybe we're pissing off a large percentage of these people in these countries, leaving them destabilized, funding them with weapons. Half of these wars, they're getting weapons from the United States and from the UN. These terror groups, they're driving United States cars. It's not like they don't even have a Air Force. And our past presidents were acting like we can't take them out. And now Donald Trump, albeit he's funding people like Saudi Arabia who have been known to fund terrorism just like the United States, he's like, hey, I'm going to try to take out ISIS. I don't know if he can do it or not. I don't know if he has the right strategy. I'm not him. But the media and the way that they are molding this conversation is very, 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 very dangerous because they didn't tell you about the past 8 years and what has been happening, and they're not telling you now. And even within the religion, there needs to be a conversation to be had. You can't get to the bottom of the truth by not talking about it, and you certainly can't get to the bottom of the truth by banning someone's travel ban just because of a mean thing that he said on his campaign. So now, if they literally, ACLU, You can Google this too. ACLU literally admitted in court that if Hillary Clinton implemented this same travel ban, that it would be constitutional. And it's not. Does that sound like somebody who's trying to help you based on your safety and security? Or does that sound like someone who's using political correctness to continue to try to dismantle the entire stability of the world? Now, like I said, it's a multi-layered issue. And I don't see any news sources getting at the root of the issue, which is one, stop creating situations that make a refugee crisis, and then we don't need to have refugees. Two, there's other ways besides dragging these people to your countries, dumping them off in the ghettos, like in Sweden. It's like, oh, here, we'll help you. We'll just dump you off in the ghetto, not give you any job, and act like we're helping. Talk to the refugees in these countries. They're not living the luxury of Europe. You think these refugees are getting dumped off in England and Sweden and they're living in the lap of luxury? No, they can't get jobs. They can't function in society. Some of them are on the streets living in tents. And then it just pisses them off more, because who would like that? It sounds terrible. God bless those people that are getting manipulated by the global powers. And people like Theresa May, leader of England, it's like they don't accept any responsibility. They won't talk about it. They won't say it. They find a way to blame Trump or say, oh, well, maybe it's because of the leak of information. It's ridiculous, and it's just not going to stop. And I pray and I speak up for the safety of Europe, for the safety of France, for the safety of Germany, Sweden, United States, and England, because I genuinely care about people. And I genuinely care about the Middle East as well. I have a lot of supporters that message me from Pakistan, from India, from Syria. I get messages from everywhere. People say, thank you so much, keep it up, thank you for telling the truth. And especially with this travel ban, it's been molded in a conversation. It's been molded in a way where this is my problem. I don't think Trump and Le Pen talk about it the right way as it should be talked about. But at the same time, what does the opposition say? They're saying nothing. At least they're saying something, albeit, like I said, it comes off a little wrong to me. But the opposition is saying, no, we're all Americans. We're all world citizens, you know? We're all, no borders whatsoever. We're all people. It's all love. It is all love. But if you have tens of millions of people who want to destroy Western civilization, guess what? They don't give a F about the love that you want. They don't give a F about these ideologies you want. Your ideologies come from a privileged life in the United States that has been kept safe by our massive military and our huge, powerful country. That's where you're even allowed to have that thought. If you were in the Middle East or you came from the Middle East, you wouldn't even be allowed to have that thought because you wouldn't be so privileged as you are now. And we need to have these conversations, because if we just keep shifting every conversation where it's like everything's racist, everything's sexist, and then, okay, that's fine. If that's racist and that's sexist, I feel you. Then what are you saying? But the other side is saying nothing. They're saying nothing about anything. They're saying nothing about security. They're saying nothing about the travel ban. They're saying nothing about what's going on in England and France and Germany. And I don't know at what point people are going to wake up and not believe me, not agree with everything I'm saying, not agree with everything Trump and Le Pen saying, but have a conversation. Stop calling them racist and sexist. That's fine, but you have to have a point. You can't just yell at everyone and call everyone racist and sexist and then say nothing. Okay, if they're so racist and sexist, then you say, I could say that. I could call Trump and Le Pen racist and sexist, because then I'll back it up with an actual argument. I could be like, that's the racist way to say that. Here's the proper way to say it. That won't offend people. And that actually, but that the other side doesn't do that. There's none of that. There's no accountability. There's no like, that's racist. Here's the way to say it. There's just like we have no security. We have no safety. You know, just let everybody in and ignore what's happening. Like, ignore the fact that there are millions of people who want to destroy Western civilization. Like, that's their goal. Like, no matter how much you want love and peace. And I think love and compassion and truth and justice, it will play a part in it. Absolutely. I think we need to solve the root of the issue. If we're going to stop the extremism there, we're never going to stop it with this ideology of like, kill everybody that's extreme. It's only going to make it bigger, because in the pursuit of doing that, we're killing civilians. We're doing messed up stuff. We have to tell the truth. I'm sorry. That's the only way to get through this. We have to be honest about both sides. I'm sorry for doing this. We're sorry for dropping bombs. We're going to stop. We're going to protect you people. But we're never going to do that because no one could talk about it. So God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the people in the Middle East. God bless the refugees. God bless Europe. God bless America. And I don't care who your God is. God bless you. I would love to see peace and prosperity for all people in the world. And we're not going to be able to do that if we don't have a real, honest conversation, back and forth dialogue like this. So This is my message to the media, to liberals, to celebrities, to anybody who's just calling everything racist and saying they want peace and love. If you truly want peace and love, you need to have a conversation like this. You need to study the Middle East. You need to study history. You need to study Europe. And you need to study what caused this refugee situation in the first place, or it's never going to end. It's just going to get worse. Much love.